Good morning and welcome back to Blithewold. I'm Margaret Whitehead, the curator, and today I'm going to be giving you the last of my 5-part series on the history of Blithewold and the family. And today we're going to go into the last two rooms, the textiles and costumes and the books and art. You're going to notice on your screen a donate button, and I hope you'll be able to help us out by using that, and that way we can keep our education programs going. All right, so we go into the costumes room. So this is a nice big room with its own climate control. Everything has to be very carefully controlled here. The boxes all contain the dresses. We have over 100 of dresses that belong to Bessie and Marjorie. The most exciting thing to show you today is the as you know, we were supposed to have an exhibit at the beginning of April for the whole of this year, and it was the wedding of Augustine. So we do have the dresses back. They're not going to be shown right now. We're going to now keep them for next year. But as an additional treat, we are going to add to them next year. We have here Augustine's wedding dress, her set from her second wedding, and her bridesmaid dresses. Because it was her second wedding, these bridesmaid dresses were her children's. So this was Marjorie Shaw and Dee Shaw. Marjorie Shaw, who of course became Marjorie Jeffries, and many of you know her. Augustine's dress is very interesting. The wedding was in 1936, and this was her second wedding, and her mother had just died. So in what was probably an emotional decision, she decided to wear her mother's second wedding dress. So it's absolutely beautiful. It took a lot of conservation, but we are very pleased with the way it's turned out. And the bridesmaids' dresses with the coronets are just priceless. So I can show you a photograph. I have here a photograph of Augustine wearing the dress. And this is a photograph that was sent recently by Marjorie Jeffries' daughter, and it was from her family album, and it's of Augustine with the two girls. And she was thrilled when I described the dresses to her, because she'd always loved this photograph, but of course it's black and white in the family album, and she had never known that the dresses were pink, and she was delighted. And her mother, even though she was 8 years old at the time, did not remember the wedding and did not remember that the dresses had been pink. So the other dress in this exhibit is Bessie's wedding dress from Marjorie's wedding in 1914, and we've been wanting to conserve that for a long time. It's an absolutely beautiful piece. With silk, and this is all silk thread. What looks like lace here is actually, and here on the sleeves, these are actually tiny, tiny beads sewn into a lace pattern. And if you want to look around the back of that, the back of it was beautiful. So that was 1914. And what we're hoping to do for next year, for our grand reopening in the spring, we will be showing these dresses. We have taken professional advice about whether we can actually keep these here. And as long as we keep our special climate control going and the lights off and the windows and blinds closed, they will be safe to just keep until next year. And then we're hoping to add to it, to make a special splash, we want to add Bessie's wedding dress, her first wedding dress, from 1882, which is it's probably our most beautiful piece, and we're going to be showing that to you in a little while. And also Marjorie's wedding dress from the day that Bessie wore this one. And also a recent acquisition is Marjorie Jeffries, who was Augustine's daughter, got married here at Blithewold herself in the 50s, and we are going to be conserving her dress. So we will have 6 pieces of the Blithewold connected weddings. All of the weddings except Bessie's first wedding were here at Blithewold. So it'll be a really special treat next year to see this wonderful exhibit. So I'll show you also a picture of William McKee, who was so proud of these two little girls on the same day, the wedding here at Blithewold. So that was his stepdaughter getting married and his two grandchildren as bridesmaids. So here we keep in this case dresses that have been on exhibit already, but that people, before we pack them up and put them away for several years, we put them in here so that people can come and see them up close. So these are still out. I'm going to be showing you, they represent really very different eras. So this one belonged to Marjorie and the other two to Bessie. So I'm going to open this, this door so that you can see more clearly. So this dress is from 1932, and it's very special because it was, trains had disappeared by now, and the dress was fabricated, the styles and construction had changed considerably. There were no bones to it, it's a slip dress, and it's a clear example of the transformation. So ready-made fashion had become convenient and very respectable. And this gown was purchased from Miss Ethel, 54 West 57th Avenue or Street in New York. So I'm going to just turn it around because the back of it is beautiful. It's a slip dress. It has absolutely no boning, no straps to fasten up. I'm just going to put those there. And look at this beautiful bow at the back. I'll let you get a good look at that. So the next dress, which we cannot open up, that's, but I assume you can see it through the glass. This dress belonged to Bessie, and it's from 1920. So this was Bessie's early response to 20s fashion. It's a loose-fitting, lined, drop-waist gold evening dress, gold lace, and has a centre-back opening. It's trimmed with grey georgette bands, which extend from the shoulders to below the hemline. And it's a really beautiful piece. And surprisingly, that Bessie would wear something like that so soon, because she was almost 60 when she wore this dress. And it has no boning and again no fastening. In contrast to the dress that she wore just 10 years before, is this one that is full of bones and straps to hold her in and petticoats. And that one is from 1910, and that's by Fox of New York. So I will show you also the, we have here a collection of hats, and whilst we come around here, you could get a view of the back of the two bridesmaid dresses and of Augustine's dress, which had the train because, of course, it had been Bessie's dress in 1901 when trains were still very much the fashion. So these are all hats, mostly belonging to Bessie, but some to Marjorie. I'll show you a couple. They're in wonderful boxes so you can see right through, and I'm going to put them on the table behind you. So this one is from 1886. It's and it was also from New York. See if I can get it out carefully, with the egret feathers. So isn't that a beauty? So that would have been Bessie, 1886. And the second one is from 1900. This also has egret feathers, which are very popular. Of course, we're not supposed to use those now. So here's another stunning piece. And this came from Hetty Boyer in Paris. So Bessie would have bought that when she was in Paris in 1901. So now, excuse me, as a special treat, I'm going to introduce my colleague, Joya Brown. Okay, sorry, we're getting mixed up here. Joya is my colleague. She is in charge of the costume collection, and she's going to show you the how we pack up the dresses, and with particular reference to Bessie's wedding dress, which we're hoping to show next year. So I introduce you to Joya.
Thank you, Margaret. Good morning, everyone. This is a special area, as you have already seen from what Margaret has shown you, but we have much more than what's on display. So these boxes house the collection, and we go from 1880s to the 1930s. So we have all of these labeled. This is the box that contains Bessie's Mother of the Bride dress, the one that you just saw, and information about the number in the collection, because everything is numbered so we can find things. Talks about what it is, also mentions people who have sponsored conservation, and this is the way we keep track of all of what we have. So we have a database, and we can look any of these up in the database and find out more information about them. We have some very interesting pieces. This is the box that normally contains the dress from 1932 that Margaret just showed you. We have a couple of other dresses that are in with that, and we're hoping to conserve these for future exhibits. So we don't exhibit anything that has not been conserved, and we have professional conservators who've worked on many of these, and we continue to do work. I'm going to show you how we store Bessie's first wedding dress. It's an absolutely gorgeous piece, as Margaret said, and I'm going to show you how we pack them up. This is all acid-free material, and I'm going to put my gloves on. You have to be careful that you don't get, we have oil on our skin, on our fingers, that we don't really take notice of, but when you're handling textiles like this, you want to make sure that you don't oil them up. So we have plenty of tissue. Depending on the size of the dress, and of course some of these dresses, and you'll see this dress has a train, we have to put them in these boxes. So sometimes we can only fit one gown in a box, or sometimes we can fit more. As you go along, the dresses, as Margaret explained, become less structured, so we can have more than one in a box, but this is highly structured, and so it's in its own box. So I'm going to, her wedding gown, even though it appears to be a one-piece, it's actually a two-piece, which was very, very typical of that era. So this is 1882, and you can see that it's a beautiful, it's a heavy silk, it's embroidered with Bessie's favorite daisies, and it's very, very fitted. This was the style at that time, so she would have worn a corset, and you can see the beautiful lace, you can see the buttons, and this actually had some straps on the inside to sort of keep it in place, and this has been conserved beautifully, and so that is the top of the dress. I'm going to just put this down here and show you this magnificent skirt. Now, if you want to come over here, I just want to show that when we put these costumes away, we make every effort to be as gentle with them as possible, and many of these dresses have lots of folds and layers, so we try our best to support those by putting these pieces of tissue in, so we don't want to just flatten things. And I'm going to bring this out in a way that you can see. Whoop, I'm hooked up here. Sorry. Oh no. Of course I don't have my glasses on. Help. Okay. So this is actually the back, and you can see this magnificent train. And I'm going to turn it over so you can see the front. And as Margaret mentioned, this will be on exhibit when we are able to exhibit all of the other Mother of the Bride and wedding dresses. So this is the skirt, and one of the things that I think is just magnificent about this is that it's asymmetrical. So you have these beautiful poofs down the left side of the skirt, lovely embroidery, and then down the right side of the skirt you have this fantastic lace and these pleats. On the inside of this there are bands of metal, and I think you can see them if I just open this up a little bit. Now these are metal. They have straps attached to them, and when this dress was worn, it was flat in the front but has a bustle and a skirt that's sort of semicircular, and the way that keeps its shape is because of these bands of metal that then get tied together, sort of pulled in and tied, so that you have this this lovely effect in the back, and then of course you have the train. So it was not a dress that you were going to sit down in. This was definitely a standing dress, and very much of the style of the 1880s, which was the flat front, the very fitted bodice, which we looked at, and then to have the bustle. And we're very fortunate. We have a lot of people who love our collection as much as we do, and they support it either with conservation, or we have some people who have made undergarments to go with these dresses. It's very important when you're showing a dress like this, actually any dress, you want to have the right undergarments. And so we have people who've helped us in that way by making the undergarments. So it's going to be a spectacular show. This is a spectacular piece. The story is sort of a fairy tale wedding story of the brides of Blithewold, and we hope that you'll enjoy that in the spring. Margaret?
Yes, we'll now go into the books and art room. These, by the way, I should just point out first before we go in here. These are all the tablecloths from the collection. They're all measured and described. They're all fine linen and lace. Eventually, for our Past Perfect program, we will have to take them out and photograph them, but we're delaying that as long as possible. In the meantime, they're very safe here. They're in special fabric bags and they're lined. So there are some beautiful ones there. So into the paintings and books. These are all the paintings. All these paintings here were done by Marjorie. We have about 500 of her paintings, and when you consider that she sold a lot and gave a lot away, she was a very prolific painter. So I'll show you how they're also throughout the house, as I'm sure you have seen. So how we choose which paintings to show, we have a lot of work to be done before we can show them. So we have something like this, which is a lovely piece of a farmhouse in Vermont, and it still has its labels on the back from when she exhibited it in you can see here that she was selling it at the at an exhibit for $25, but it didn't sell. So we're very glad. I would have certainly paid $25 for it. Now this one we would love to show, but it's going to, in order to do so, we can probably keep the frame. I'll just show it to you again. But we can tell from the yellow staining around the mat here that this is acid leaching through, so that is harmful to the painting. So we will have to take the whole thing apart. It will have new acid-free matting. It will also have to have UV filtered glass, which is very expensive, and at the same time I think this frame can be restored, so we'll be able to use the original frame. So I'll just leave that there a moment and show you one, for instance, that has been. So once they're treated, we can use them anytime for exhibits. So here we are. You can see that the mat is completely clear around the edge. This is not an original frame, but it's very similar to the one it was in, and the glass is all UV filtered glass, and that's marked on the back that it's UV glass and the date when it was put here. So that's a farmhouse in Vermont. Marjorie spent a lot of time in Vermont. She had an aunt who lived there and she loved to paint in Vermont. Put that back. So we have a bit of these are all local. They're either Blithewold or Vermont, and then these are the ones of Europe. So all three of these bins are Marjorie's paintings. We also, and this is her first painting that we had. This was done in 1887. It's of the Bristol Lighthouse. So she was 13 years old when she did that, so you can see that she was already showing promise as an artist. On the other side are the books. These are being processed right now, so they've all been sorted. They need labels and they need repacking. But you can see we've got biographies, we've got birds, gardening, art books, biographies, history. So these are all non-fiction. So we'll go around to the other side of here and see the fiction. And remember, before I pointed out to you how things are prepared for the Past Perfect program, and of course the books are done right here. So here's the familiar box of numbers and the cameras and lights. So these are all paintings, flat paintings. These are all by Marjorie. Other paintings are by other members of the family. There's a whole box of the paintings by Augustine. There's a box of Marjorie Jeffries paintings. And then we have here maps and posters from World War I. George collected those posters. And we have something that these, I'll show you the fiction books. These are all children's books. Again, they're all sorted and they're waiting to be processed and new labels put on. So then here we have a really interesting piece. This appeared a couple of years ago when, actually more than that, it was when we were doing the changes here on the third floor, and this is tucked up. It's a map. It goes from here, this is the end of it, and it goes right to the wall over there, and it's a map of southern France. Here's a photograph of it. We rolled it out to try and see how big it was and measure it. And this we think was in George's headquarters in World War I, because it's got all the lines of where the front was at different times with dates, and we're pretty sure that it came from his headquarters there. So that's a very interesting piece. We have tried all kinds of ways to try and display this, but it's just too big. We're not going to be able to do that. So here we have books that are waiting to be processed. We have boxes and boxes of music, of theatre programs. So we can go back out to Excuse me. So that brings us to the end of our 5-part virtual tour of Blithewold. If this experience has taught us anything, it's that our members and guests are very interested in the history of Blithewold family and the static collection they left for us. As you know, the house is closed down now, but when life returns to normal, we on the 3rd floor will continue our past perfect catalogue system, which enables us to post photographs and information on our website. And we also hope to develop a behind-the-scenes tour. In the meantime, you can visit the gardens with masks and distancing and enjoy the peace and tranquility that are always found there. We will get over this, and what a joy it will be to continue our work here and share this magnificent estate with you. Thank you for joining us today. Stay safe and strong, and we look forward to seeing you soon.